So in this presentation, we will be covering chapters 2 and chapters 3. So chapter 2 is supportive and healthy relationships in the classroom. So we must first go over what a relationship by definition is. The generalized personal meaning students and teachers attach to their interactions with each other is defined as a relationship. A relationship can be friendly, it can be supportive, it can be antagonistic, it can be conflicted. Relational negativity is basically what it sounds like. It's a negative relationship between teacher and student. So you can see relational negativity in the classroom with behavioral problems and other behavioral management techniques that can be utilized. So educators should be enthusiastic and energetic, but educators should also demand a level of respect from their student. There are two fundamental dimensions that make up interpersonal behaviors. There's influence and effect. Influence are behaviors that act on, direct, or control the behaviors of others. You have high influence behaviors and low influence behaviors. High influence behaviors include exerting control, taking the lead, being really confident and positive. Lower influence behaviors include submissiveness, avoiding confrontation, etc., etc., etc. Effect represents the extent of sociability or connection present in the interaction. You have positive and negative forms of effect. So the positive in this case might be empathy, complimenting, reassuring. The negative forms of effect might be disapproval, sarcasm, or criticism. And combination of these two terms create a classroom dynamic that should make learning engaging.
Hello, I'm going to talk about self-management as an aspect of building relationships. First, face work is a term used by sociologists and communication specialists to describe the actions people take to manage their identities as they interact with others. It is more than just maintaining and establishing an identity. It also involves actions or communications that acknowledge the face that others project. Thus, in order to respect a student's well-being and self-image, teachers need to be aware of how their interactions with students might uplift or deplete a student's self-image. So when a teacher is correcting a student's behavior, they have to be mindful not to criticize the character of the student.
So we are continuing with chapter 2, supportive and healthy relationships. So boundary concerns in relationships. Many teachers find that relationships with students must be balanced with other concerns, such as maintaining control, limiting emotional involvement, preserving instructional time, and school policies. So in order to prevent boundary problems, teachers should plan how relationships will be made and pick among strategies offered for building relationships. So some teachers might find that being too emotional or being too energetic is one strategy. However, other teachers might be more distant and more business-like. These strategies will evolve over time as teachers become more aware of their students and encounter relationship problems. So, managing first impressions. It's important for managing first impressions that you make eye contact with your student, you have positive body language, you have positive feedback to your student. However, you should set boundaries. So, keep in touch with the interests of the student. Participate in community affairs that are affiliated with your school, such as football games, such as Christmas fairs that your school might be having, etc., etc., etc. So managing first impressions. Welcome the student with a smile and eye contact as they enter the room. Use students' names frequently during initial class time. Be organized and uh, ready for every activity that you might have with your students. A teacher's initial impressions they make should convey their acceptance of their role as a teacher and not as a friend or a parent, and they should engage and act on their actions expected of a teacher. So throughout the year, keep in touch with the interests of your students, participate in community activities like a football game, that you might see your students at. Look for opportunities of conversation in the hallway with your students. Encourage group work. Use self-management techniques. So throughout the year, treat a student's mistakes. Don't over highlight their mistakes. Don't try to embarrass your students. Don't try to have some type of personal vendetta out for your students as well. So creating a link between a triad, rather, between parent, teacher, and student is essential to a good relationship with students. As we said before, this relational negativity is not a good thing to have in the classroom. So keep your grade reporting website up to date. Provide communication skills that are positive on back to school night. Provide a glimpse of what their child is like in the classroom to the parent. Recognize students' accomplishments and achievement with the parent as well. A good relationship with the parent about their child's discipline behavior issue is recommended. So we are continuing with chapter 2, supportive and healthy relationships. So communication with parent creates a relationship that can change the dynamic of the classroom management. So the teacher should try to be open about the frequency of communication that you make with the parent. Remember, communication might not always be representative of facial expression. So something such as an email or a phone call, rather. Building relationship with colleagues is also important as well. Having a good relationship with other teachers is essentially important, and other counselors is essentially important. So lastly, who will I teach? Teacher-student relationships in urban settings. So urban schools are found to have more poverty, more immigration population, more single parents to their students, and more importantly, they're more they have more higher poverty levels. So I was reading a book in my one class, and it's History and Contemporary. And in History and Contemporary, we're reading Shame of a Nation, and it compares urban schools to suburban schools. And basically, within this book, the urban schools get lower funding, they get lower care and recognition than the suburban schools. And this has been since Brown versus Board of Education, this has been separate but equal, and it really shortchanges the urban schools. So, urban teachers may not have the same socioeconomic background as their students. Teachers should build knowledge of the community and the environment of where their students live. Urban student teachers, urban students trust teachers who are more open about their interests and lifestyles. So the significance of behavioral management and classroom values should be discussed with urban students.
Hello, we're going to be talking about organizing the classroom. Um, so there are 5 keys to guide the placement of these items. Number 1, use room arrangement consistent with your instructional goals. Number 2, keep high traffic areas free of congestion. Number 3, be sure you can easily see all your students. Number 4, keep frequently used teaching materials and supplies readily accessible. Number 5, be certain that students can easily see whole class presentations and displays. And then there are additional recommendations in the chapter about planning for students who are English language learners. So next we're going to talk about some further suggestions for arranging your classroom and then ELL learners. So here are some suggestions. Successful classroom management and climate is created through the successful arrangement of a classroom, and here are some ways to do such. Post classroom rules on the wall. Display student past work that is exceptional. Design a floor plan that will make your room spacious but not overcrowded. A teacher's desk should be neat and orderly. Maintain a creative bulletin display. And next, for ELL learners, English as a language learner are students who have moved past the early stages of English comprehension and usage, however, but lack the vocabulary of fluent native speakers. So it is important to create a welcoming classroom environment, especially for ELL learners. A welcoming and individualized environment can be achieved through working with students to create a display of their names, pictures, and other personal info. Room arrangement should cater to students who are maybe ELL learners, and you can do this by creating displays of vocabulary or assignments that may help the ELL learner. Another suggestion is forming a center with materials on special topics.